Fresh and
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh, and you are all of my buds. And today we have one of my favorite people in the entire world. It is Taylor Morrow of the Attack Action Podcast, who is joining us. Well, we're going to get hot and heavy. We're going to do some hot takes because it's very hip and popular to do these days. And obviously, I'm in my hot take gear. For the YouTube watchers and the listeners, you could just imagine what that means. But before we get to Taylor, I do want to shout out to the sponsor of the show, which is the patrons who really help keep the mics hot and the lights on. It is very much appreciated. And you can find that all in the show notes, as well as links for the Buds Discord, which is an excellent place to hang out, as well as the Twitter and other important links, down in the show notes. And hey, listen, this is the week. I'm telling you, I can feel it in my bones, folks, that we are going to have Charmer on at the end of the show. So stick around. It's going to be a real banger with Taylor. I love him to death, and we're really going to do it. Thank you all. And here is Taylor. All right. We are here yet again with Mr. Taylor Morrow of the Attack Action Podcast, just one of the OG buds at this point. First guest, repeating guest, one of my favorite people in the world. And I'm just happy to have him on because, you know what? We're getting a little hot and spicy this week. And I can't think of anybody more hot and more spicy than Taylor Morrow. And he's here. And how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing awesome. I had a great day at work. We had a real banger of a professional development day, and anybody who has those kind of corporate mandated professional development days, they can blow fat chunks. But today was awesome. I feel professionally developed, so that's a great feeling. And it was a beautiful day. And I'm here on Fresh and Buds. The best part about being on somebody else's podcast is I just get to sit here and fuck around with you, and then you have to edit it and post it in a timely manner, and I just get to go on with my life. So pretty excited.
Amen. It is Wednesday night, and this is posted tomorrow, so I'm having a late night tonight, but that's all right because guess what? This is going to get so hot and spicy. I'm not even going to want to cut anything out of this podcast. I'll tell you that much, folks. But we do have a lot.
I'm getting naked later.
Yeah. Woo-wee. Stay tuned.
Pepperonis are coming out.
And if you're listening on Spotify, check out the YouTube. That's cool. I'm glad you're professionally developed. Thank you. I always wonder, as a former student, I went through the public education system. I always wondered if the teachers were actually developing themselves during those days that we got off. But it's good to hear that you all are, and at least your school district, which is cool.
A colleague of mine was prepared with colored pens and pages from a coloring book for us to spend our time doing a kind of activity that was not looking at our phones, but we didn't have to use them because it was really well done.
Some riveting stuff, I'm sure. I mean, who doesn't love coloring though? Now, speaking of coloring, what's going on in the Flesh and Blood world for you, Taylor? What is new with the Attack Action Podcast? First of all, I see a variety of content coming from you guys. Some spicy stuff. What's going on there?
Well, we're, continuing with our mission statement of total domination and monopoly of all the content for Flesh and Blood. So we've brought on Arcane Games and Events legendary commentator Blake Meyer. And so he's hanging out with Colin because they live in LA. And so they're doing some extra content. So we have a pretty fun brute deck tech up on the channel now with Blake, and he's very entertaining. And then I believe we have another one coming out with him for a Prism deck as well, and so he's going to be doing, so he's going to be featured on that somehow. Well, not somehow, on the YouTube featured deck tech. And then I've poached Darth Prentice from you. Greg is doing now the readings of the lore of Flesh and Blood for our channel, which should be coming out in this month of November. So suck it, Tommy.
You got me, man. I don't know what you want me to say. Greg's got a great freaking voice for that, so I'm pretty happy. Now, I do have to ask, Blake obviously did the Brute, deck tech. You mentioned Prism. Which Prism is he doing a deck tech in, and which format? Because there's a plethora of options there.
Yeah, there's a lot of Prisms. I believe it's Classic Constructed Prism. What is that Prism called? Throne Warden or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
It's Advent of Thrones and
I feel like Advent of Thrones not the old version?
I think that's the young version. These are I would look up the card, but these are non-corrective lenses, and I can't even really see your face, so
that's all right. It's probably for the best. It doesn't matter, basically, and I'm sorry to say this.
Summoner of bullshit. That's what it is.
That is, Prism, and you know what? I've been very vocal about my hatred of Prism, and this new one is not necessarily I hate because it's hard to beat. I hate because I tried to play it and it sucked. So, I will say Brian Gottlieb swears by it, and he's like, "You guys haven't figured it out yet."
Yeah.
Well, we're waiting.
No, I think it's cool. It's what it's fine.
Yeah. You know what? Wait and see. Now, that sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, you guys are some of the best in the biz in terms of Flesh and Blood content. That's why you guys are always here. That's why I like to have you.
Thank you.
Now, you've been doing some pro questing, right? It is pro quest season. I saw a lot of Arakni gear.
Yeah.
On your person.
We're kitted out.
Yeah.
As it were.
What's the deal? What's the deal with this Arakni gear? I baited out, and you correctly called it on Twitter that I baited out that there's an OTK Arakni deck out there, which obviously does not exist. But you saw it. You saw right through it. You seem to be an Arakni aficionado. What's going on with you and Arakni?
Okay, so this is gonna be a long answer.
Sure.
So, which is great because it's a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And what is a podcast but words said by two white guys behind microphones?
Yeah. Yes, in our 30s.
Yeah, with dumbass sunglasses on. No offense. You look awesome. I'm assuming I look awesome also, but non-corrective lenses, again, I can't see. And if you're listening on Spotify, go check out the YouTube channel. You get to see my mustache, which is pretty fun.
Very nice.
Anyway, so I have been on a journey since Viserai Skeleta was no longer a thing. And because Viserai used to be my favorite hero, from the very beginning. I was like, Viserai is so awesome. And then Skeleta comes out and I'm like, this is sick. I'm having so much fun trying to slogism my Arc Knight Ascendancy and then rattle bones that back and play it twice in a turn. Like, isn't that cool? Okay, I still lost the game. And then we got some more stuff. We got Sonata, blah, 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 and so we had like kind of OTK, Viserai, Skeleta shenanigans, which was so fun. And then that got banned. And then I have just been wandering the wastes like Kasai in search of something that was fulfilling to play, and I thought that was going to be Icelander. I just proclaimed, on the podcast, I'm going to play Icelander. It's awesome. And it was so fun in the days before she was good, trying to figure that deck out and the play patterns, and doing some crazy stuff. And then Mikey Hammy of the great state of Indiana ruined it by making it super good. And it became popular. And then the hipster that I am was like, well, now I can't. I was doing that before it was cool. Now it's cool, so I can't do that. And so I've just been lost on what I want to play. What do I want from this game? And at the same time, like my work life is ramping up and that sort of thing. So I can't put in the amount of time I really want to in the game to practice or chase the meta, blah, blah, blah. I guess I was also really into Chain. And I thought I was a Rune Blade guy. And I was like, Briar is silly. I don't want to play Briar. Then Vincent came out and I'm like, maybe Vincent's the answer. And it's not true. And this whole time since Arakni has come out, I've been just secretly playing Arakni, kind of like I had a secret love affair with Oldhim and then never played him at an event. And then now I can't. And probably still can't in Living Legend because why wouldn't you just play Starvo? So,
True.
Arakni has always been in the bag, always been playing it, etc. And then, I played Azuri for a while and I was like, this is pretty fun, but it's still not Arakni. And then I just now have come to the conclusion that fuck it. Arakni's freaking rad. And I'm just going to specialize in this hero now because if I'm going to put in the time to practice and stuff and collect cards that look cool, I'm going to Assassin Arakni is the way to go. And I freaking love that guy. And I did a lot of practice and didn't have great results, but we can talk about that. But so now I'm just an Arakni guy. And that's just what I'm going to do now because can't chase at the level I would really want to competitively. So I'm just going to have as much fun as possible. And that's Arakni. So there you go. There's a long answer. Oh, and then the Arakni kit is I have an Arakni shirt.
Nice.
I have an Arakni pin. I got the Arakni Hero playmat art. I got cold foil Arakni. That's what I got.
You're really doing it. Now,
yeah.
Arakni. I'm a big fan of Arakni too. I definitely got on the train early with Dynasty. Let's be honest. If you were to just line up a lot of the heroes by art, I think adult Arakni would be pretty high there in terms of people picking it because it looks grotesque, beautiful, and badass all the time. Or
totally.
all at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is
that mask is rad. His cool blue cloak that has this kind of white star pattern on it and all those masks and then the background. He's got the hump. It's cool.
Yeah,
it's a vibe.
The cloak reminds me of what Snoop Dogg wore at the halftime show a couple years ago. Which hey, listen, it's pretty cool. Now, and maybe it has some gang affiliations to Crip Walk or something like that, I heard. But we don't know about Arakni. Now, what are you doing in Arakni that is making it so rewarding and fun for you to play? Because originally, Arakni felt very just one note and really hard to kind of it seemed like you wanted to fatigue with it, but it was also not the most efficient at doing it. And then we got a lot of cool cards. I started building an Arakni just because I wanted to play Codex of Inertia because it seemed really good in Arakni.
Yeah.
Where are you at with the deck?
Well, so one of the things I really like about it is milling cards off the top. There was this moment in the game that I was most interested in before Flesh and Blood, competitively, Star Wars Destiny. One of my favorite moments was we had a store championship and I was like, you know what? Everybody thinks I'm going to play this one deck, but I'm going to build something spicy. I'm just going to build a mill deck with these whatever heroes. And it's really funny because you play little baby Anakin and then you get his pod racer and then you can mill cards with his pod racer and you get to say, now this is pod racing. And your opponent is like, you're not even playing the game. You're just discarding my cards. Attack me, coward. And you're like, nope, haha, I won. And so that's really fun. And then So like I love milling cards off the top of the deck and hitting silver. That's like a little dopamine trigger every time. I'm like, ooh, got a silver. um, so what the deck can really do now, just based on like the meta, is you can play into black techs so well, because like if you're up against any ninja, or any ranger, they don't really block.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like all your 0-for-4s, already dead, annihilate the armed. They all just hit and mill a card, and that gets you a silver most of the time, especially off of like Plunder the Poor or annihilate the armed. So you're guaranteed to get a silver. And then if you can pair those two in the same hand, like you have annihilate the armed in hand, and you have Plunder the Poor in arsenal, and you have a tunic resource. Well, you can go annihilate the armed. They don't block because you're not disrupting them. You break black text, which you've already blocked with, and then you play Plunder the Poor from arsenal, and then that's definitely going to hit because nothing costs 2 in most of those decks, And so you can also like break your Mask of Perdition and all of a sudden have 6 silver because both contracts are live on the combat chain. And then so now you're rich, and you can just buy back your equipment and block. So rather than like running sigils, right? So like Tao Tao is pretty famous for having a really pimp Arakni and Azuri fatigue list, and he's running sigils. But if you can buy back this equipment 3 or 4 times a game, that's like the same value. So that's kind of what I've figured out, is that because nobody blocks you, and if they do block 2 cards for your 5 damage, you love that. That's the exact same thing as taking cards out of their deck, which is one of your win conditions. So, and then you've also dealt 9 damage all of the sudden.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you're willing to block. So you can have these pretty efficient trades. Look out for my Arakni deck tech coming to Attack Action Podcast YouTube channel near you. So that's what the deck's doing.
I mean, it sounds, it's funny enough, right? So, like, we know that Brian was one of the kind of masterminds of this assassin hero, Arakni, and who's kind of like this, who's bringing this new school version of Flesh and Blood to us, right? We're seeing a lot of it in the design. But that being said, Arakni still feels very old school Flesh and Blood in a way where it is all about those efficient trades and attacks and blocks, which is kind of neat in a funny enough way. Now, you mentioned that you haven't really had the results that you had hoped for. Can you tell us why you think that is?
Well, 2 things. So one, somebody might ask, well, like what happens when they block? How do you so you also have like cut to the chase or shred. So you can really force that play pattern on your opponent if you can keep an extra card, which is even more awesome when you punish them when they block with 2 cards and you just go, shred hits, black text coming again in your face. So I only got to take, I can only go, just this last weekend I went to 2 pro quests, and one was limited, and then the other one was CC. And it was like definitely the meta I wanted when the top 8 was full of other assassins, ninjas, and 1 Dromai. Like that's definitely what I would be looking to hunt for sure. But I didn't have like a ton of time to really put in any sort of real practice effort other than Talishar pickup games, which only get you like so far. You need like pretty dedicated practice sessions. Not even that many, I think. I think if I had just, gotten somewhere between 4 to 6 or 7, I definitely would have been able to maybe up my percentage points a little bit. But yeah, so I only went 2 and 4 at my pro quest, and I had the deck, like, absolutely you should just scoop to Dromai, and I got paired into 2 Dromai. So, well, round 1 I played against Dash, Hanabi Blaster Dash, they had no idea what my hero ability did or what my game plan was, and it was really nice. I was like, hell yeah, this is exactly why I brought this, because nobody's gonna know. So I win round 1 and then instantly get paired into a teammate, and it's the Assassin Mirror, so we're playing really fast, and I know, we play together all of the time because he's one of my locals or whatever, and I kind of know what my game plan is, and I've pitch stacked my pummel with my surgical extraction. He's at 6 health. I know I'm going to draw into it really soon. I codex. I get the pummel off of the ponder, arsenal it. I'm like, awesome. I'm one hand of cards away from my surgical extraction. I think maybe a few more. This is great. I have a brain fart moment where I let his like Plunder the Poor hit or something, and it banishes the top card of my deck, and it's the surgical.
Ooh.
And I just go, oh shit. I know I have one CNC left. I don't know if I can get there. This sucks. And so he wound up winning that game, but it was like really close,
Yeah.
I got him down to maybe 2 health, and he had no cards left in deck. But I was a little healthier, but I only had 1 card left in hand.
Wow. Jeez.
But if I gotten that surgical off, it would have been curtains for him, because he would have lost all tempo, and then I could just maybe Kodachi dagger lock him out of the game and run him out of cards before I ran out of cards and that sort of thing. So, and then it was kind of downhill from there. You get paired into Dromai, blah blah blah, So we were on the precipice. Actually, I won round 3 against Dorinthia, which is a pretty spicy matchup because you can't run Dory out of cards. You will get fatigued by her because she comes in for like 6, and you kind of got to block for 9, and they're like, okay, that's fine. And then there's arsenal of their card, and you're like, okay, well, now I only have 2 cards, and they have armor, so you have to kill Dorinthia. So that makes it a little bit more challenging. So anyway, we got there, blah blah blah, didn't win that many more games, etc.
Well,
How's that?
I mean, that is the truth, and I believe it. And Dromai is an interesting spot where it feels like it is gatekeeping a lot of decks. That's for sure. I mean, like maybe not so much after maybe Bullseye Bracer comes back, but I feel like Riptide has a very brutal matchup into Dromai, and and our friend Orc Knight, who actually asked a question, and mentions Riptide. He has a lot more faith in that matchup than me. Maybe he's got a lot more games against it than me. But it's a shame. But I guess like that's the whole point of Illusionist, is like kind of this weird gatekeepy class. But it gets a little iffy when it starts just to win all the time. But it's neither here nor there. We'll save the hot takes for after the fresh phase. But
yeah, you're getting me fired up over here.
Yeah, sorry. Now you mentioned you had a limited ProQuest. I just want to know what your thoughts are on Bright Lights Limited, because you're a limited junkie just like me.
Absolutely. So I didn't get a ton of Bright Lights practice in before this, but we grinded some matches before Saturday and some drafts, and then we got 2 more on Saturday. So I think I've had like 6 drafts now or something like that. And I was pretty high on the format going into this weekend. But then kind of, my cramming for the exam, as it were, and then taking the exam, I am now like pretty lukewarm on the format. I thought maybe Outsiders was like subpar for me, but and we talked about this. I was talking about this with Oliver Fye. Shout out to the OK and Y podcast. He's also a great host, great dude. And we were talking about past draft sets and what ones we liked and what ones we didn't like. And we all agreed that Tales of Aria gameplay not great, but the draft part of it really awesome.
Yeah.
Outsiders draft not great, gameplay super awesome.
Yeah.
But then Bright Lights feels really mid to me now,
Interesting.
you know? And perhaps I need to like play it some more so I kind of break through a barrier of understanding. But I just felt like you can kind of read signals, but at the same time, like everybody wants the exact same cards, and that is not maybe the limited experience I'm like looking for. And then the rares are so what's the word? So much more powerful and valuable. Like all of them, like hydraulic press, ratchet up, torque tuned, etc. Like they're just way better than any common. And so it's like whatever one is in your pack, basically you pick, you know. There's like there's hardly any of those that you like want to pass on to anybody else. And so what's my point? My point is that those are all good in like basically every deck. And then every deck kind of wants like the 1-for-4s, 2-for-5s, all of the reds or whatever. You know what I mean? And kind of even they all want some number of items depending on who they are. You know what I mean? Like it's not like everybody doesn't want a red boom grenade. Of course you'll take that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a little bit less in Teklevossen, but you might even take it as a sideboard option against a certain matchup, because like mid game when you play a boom grenade and they're at a certain health total, they kind of have to block it. And you can steal tempo. You know what I mean? So when all of those things are like kind of added up, I just don't feel it. You know what I mean? I don't agree with a lot of takes of like super deep format, tons to understand and that sort of thing. I'm like, I don't understand how at a table of 8 people that all want a 1-for-4 red card and all want the titanium, what is it, the 3-for-7? What is that? As galvanized
alloy or something titanium. It's like a verb, right?
Yeah. Biggest titanium.
Amplify? No, something like that. Yes, I know what you're talking about. It has a big old creature with a giant like metal sword thing. Yes.
Kyle is his name.
Yeah,
the Kyle card.
And people want titanium dog or no, junkyard dog as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So
it like makes all these decks like watered down kind of, and makes it so like the safest pick feels like Teklevossen. You know what I mean? And the variance in like my first round I played I had what I thought was a fucking broken max deck, but then I found out like I had I was not wanting for breakpoint red cards.
Mm-hmm.
I was not wanting for cards that put counters on my hyperdriver. I was not wanting for pumps. Like I had gas ups, I had red recharges, blue recharge. You know, I was like, this deck's broken. Everybody here is an idiot. And then I even had I was like, ooh, I even got some tech. I got autosave script against Teklevossen. I can set that up. I also have megahertz script so that then I can set up like a go again turn with non-boost cards, blah, 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 you know, which is a little anti-synergistic with some of the pumps. But, you know, I thought I had this game plan. And then turn 2, I just boost autosave script off the top of my deck. And I'm like, fuck, how do I win this game now? And that was like frustrating. You know what I mean? So, I want to hear from you now. I've been doing a lot of talking. I know I'm the guest, but you tell me what you think, and maybe I'll change my mind.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with everything you're saying, right?
Wonderful.
I understand where you're coming from though. And I think in my experience was definitely the ProQuest experience, right? Because one, we didn't get a lot of time with the set, right? So, you know, people have like an idea of like, we got to just do this one thing and I'll be okay. I'll make it into the top 8 and then I could try to like figure it out from there. And that's what I found in my ProQuest, right? People just like, I don't care. I'm taking blue block threes and I'm playing Teklo. I don't care.
Yeah.
But what I do find is, and a Teklo I think is the problem here, right? Where you're like,
Yeah.
it's a really efficient blocking deck in a set that boost is prevalent. Which is tough. And I understand why they did that, right? Like you can't just have it just boost, boost, boost. Whoever gets the best boost deck wins. I understand that. And I think that might be like something a little bit inherent with doing a set like this. But I find Max and Dash to feel very like your picks matter. Like, and they also want different things. Teklo wants a lot of what everybody else wants. Because everybody wants a blue block 3. That's what Flesh and Blood is. So I understand where you're coming from, and I think a lot of that is the ProQuest experience. Now I'm willing to be proven wrong, but I have to imagine that the World's drafts are going to look a lot different, right?
Yeah.
And sure, we're not all drafting with the best of the best at our locals all the time. So just because the World's draft looks a lot different doesn't mean your locals is going to look a lot different. So I think it's so tough. It's nice to not ever have to want a crack bobble, but also if you were drafting correctly, you should never really ever have needed one. So I don't know. It's tough. I find both Dash and Max to feel very rewarding, where Teklo feels kind of mindless in a way.
Totally.
And I think that is the problem, because you can't. Because in a way, I almost initially felt like when I started playing the set that Teklo was like, oh, this is kind of like Oldham, right? Like I want 3 for 7s and like to block and all this stuff, but it doesn't have the same nuance that Oldham had, I think, unless you actually go for your Evo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the true problem, is that it doesn't quite get to that nuance that like something like Oldham had in Tales of Aria draft. So I'm definitely warmer than you are on the set, but I think your criticisms are valid, because it is. I mean, it's like, boosting is like this weird mechanic to kind of put where every single hero can do it. I think, but I guess it also makes you think about when you're boosting in a way. But also some of the hero, like Max, feels like I gotta boost at least once every turn.
Yeah, totally.
I'm losing cards every turn, so I get it. I totally get it. But I don't know.
I get what you're saying too. Is like World's draft will be way different. And I'm excited to see, like, because I still want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm not ready to write the set off. This is just my current opinion at this point in time with my experiences. It just felt bad in that first draft to have felt like I had built a really good deck. And if you want to know what I drafted, just hit me up and I still have it together. I'll send the picture. And maybe it's a skill issue, but I just felt like I had drafted a deck with a bunch of stuff in mind that I knew I was going to see, and had a game plan for some stuff. And then it just kind of fell apart a little bit. And there were some the game was close, and there were some definitely piloting errors that maybe I could shore up and that sort of thing. But I just thought I was going to be rewarded for having found all of these little combos and maybe had gotten stuff in the right ratios and that sort of thing. And then for Dash, I just don't that is my favorite hero to play because it's the most fun. But I also don't know how I get around when I have 2 or 3 items in hand instead of on top of my deck. You know what I mean? Like, how do I play out of that? That seems just super impossible when there are so many block for 3s and cards attacking me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. Those are hard hurdles for me to mentally get over.
For sure. And I think something I found like after a couple drafts was like, and Dash obviously needs items, but like
Yeah.
I think we initially all thought like it needed a ton. I think you just want like super impactful ones, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's like the hardest thing because like how do you get them? And sure they can get jammed up in your hand. That sucks. I don't even think Max really wants items outside of like the hyperdrivers. And I had a friend tell me I was crazy for drafting the hyperdrivers. I was like, well, you know, you can get them back with like, was it gas up?
Up.
You can get them like
Yeah.
it seems, and you can crank them out. You know, all this cool stuff. But yeah, it's very very complicated. I think because it on paper it should be like a super deep kind of format, but it definitely can play like it's super simple when you're just getting blocked out and boosting and just like not getting and like boosting away your overload card or your ratchet up that was supposed to get you to the point where you can push through and win the game. So
Yeah.
I understand.
That's what I mean. I even drafted the Cogworks head
Oh,
that
yeah.
puts back that red card if I boosted it away. That's what I mean. I like thought of this stuff and like, you know, it wasn't like I just couldn't get over the top there, you know. So I would like to play it again. But, you know, my pushback against that is that because of the high level of variance in the set, which is totally fine, you know,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is totally fine. But you know, and I'm also willing to be wrong on this, but that is what people are saying makes it so deep is like I have to play around all of these variance scenarios. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than it being like, what can my opponent do to me? You know? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like rather than playing around my opponent's game plan, I'm playing around like kind of the variance within the card pool. And
Yeah.
that's what like in quotations makes it a deep format. Maybe. I don't know, really, but lukewarm. Lukewarm.
Lukewarm. You heard it here
I'm glad
first,
you're
folks.
psyched. I'm glad you're psyched.
I'm psyched enough. I mean, I'm still not. I'm not happy that we had an all mech set. I'll be honest, but you know, maybe I'm just such a limited fan. I'm just happy to have some limited to play, and play like at a relatively higher level, like at ProQuest and stuff like that. That's very cool to me. But you know, we'll see where it plays out. You know, because this could be a set that you know we end up playing for like the whole life cycle till heavy hitters, or after Worlds, everybody's like the Andy from Toy Story meme where I don't want to play with you anymore. So
Yeah, totally.
I think we'll see post Worlds or even during Worlds, who knows? But I was going to ask you some questions, but I'm going to save them for the hot takes section. I'm just going to move straight to the Bright Lights fresh phase.
Well, let me before we get into that,
Yeah.
I do want to share a highlight from the weekend.
Oh yeah.
That is Bright Lights Limited adjacent. So if you know, OK and Y has popularized the bento box, which is like a 2-player limited format. It's like a cube. It's 90 cards. It's Ninja. And you can do what's called a quilt draft, which is a 7x7 grid. And you only pick, and the cards alternate from vertical to horizontal. And then you can only pick cards that the short end of the card is exposed, right? And you have perfect information of what's out there, and you know what your opponent's picking and that sort of thing. And it makes for a really, really, really fun. If you don't have this built, it's like less than, $100. It might be $80, $70 for all of the cards if you don't have them. Go build it. It's really fun. What we did on Saturday night, because we were just like having drinks, hanging out, is instead of crack shuffle play, we quilt drafted those 6 packs. So we made a 7x7 grid because it's the same amount of cards, right? And that was crazy amounts of fun.
Oh, I bet.
To like look at all of the cards and take that time to like draft them with your buddy like that. So you know what they have, they know what you have, and then you play best out of 3. So you take the same 6 packs, 3 for each of you that you would have, and you make a 7x7 grid and you draft them. And that was a shit ton of fun.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
Do they have a video on that? The bento
No, we were
box?
just doing it around the kitchen table. Like, hey, I wonder if we could do this. The math works out the same, so let's try it.
Well, no, like
So, yeah.
like the like how to do the bento box.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
they have? Yeah.
yeah?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah,
well,
you go to their YouTube channel, OKNY
and,
YouTube.
and just watch it.
Yeah, and they have the list of cards there and stuff in a spreadsheet for you and all that stuff.
Hell yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
thank you for sharing
try it
that,
out.
Taylor. I really appreciate
problem.
that. Are you willing to
Appreciate
do
you.
some? Yeah, I appreciate you. Are you willing to do some Bright Lights Fresh Faves right now?
Hell yeah.
All right. So
Got my notes right here. I'm ready.
Taylor Morrow, who is your favorite hero from Bright Lights?
Dash database. So fun. Getting a look at the top card, played at instant speed. So cool.
Very, very cool. And that, hey, listen, I will say, if your opponent is Dash and they're attacking you, you do have to think about, is that a boom grenade on top?
Boom grenade off the top. You're like, huh.
That's not.
This card doesn't have go again.
Yeah. Yikes. What's your favorite weapon?
That's pretty hard. I think it is Symbiosis Shot just because of how cool it is that you get to put a little counter on it and you can just shoot it without having to pay for anything of it. And I like the loop of like the steam canister or the other blue items that just loop and that you can kind of have infinite ammo in quotations that way, I think it's a cool weapon. And that you can if you get an extra action point, it comes in for 0. It's a 0 for 4. It's cool. Symbiosis Shot is cool.
Oh yeah, shout out Symbiosis Shot, killing it. What's your favorite? And we have a lot of it in the set. What's your favorite equipment?
This one's pretty hard. I'm gonna answer this with one card. I think that I found out to be initially I was like, I'm pretty low on this card, and then kind of played with it a bit more. So it's Evo Cog Spitter or whatever it is. The arms that allows you to play an item at instant speed from banishing or destroying a card underneath it. I think it's a 0 Evo yellow blocks for 2 is just a really cool ability, to be able to flash out an item that's stuck in your hand rather than hoping that medics or expedite or whatever it is hits.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I like that play pattern better. So that's kind of my favorite, I think.
It's a good answer.
Thank you.
What's your favorite run-of-the-mill card, your attack actions, non-attack actions, items, instants that you throw in your deck?
Hard to know, really. There's quite a few cards I really like, but the ones I'm going to pick for this segment is the script cards. I think they have really cool abilities, and they have, I think, some of the best art in the set. Overload script looks freaking badass when it's on the table.
Oh yeah.
That black and red, and it has a great ability. Autosave script looks cool. Penetration script looks cool. They all those are my favorite cards in the set for sure.
Hell yeah. And that is the Bright Lights Fresh Faves. Now, folks, it's the moment this is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's the hot take section, because I've just been trolling a little bit on Twitter, just taking a look, swimming through, seeing what's going on. People are hot on the takes these days, and I don't know where it came from or what it's all about. Maybe because the world's going to have merch, apparently some Flesh and Blood official merch.
I know, right?
And I don't know. And people said it sucks. Maybe it's great. I don't know. I honestly don't really know. But we have hot takes because we're hot guys. Hot guys have hot takes, and that's the truth. And now let's start with some hot takes in terms of meta. Worlds, Lexi, Livewire, done. dead, gone,
Dunzo. She's out of
over.
here.
Get out of here, Lexi. You're done. We're not even gonna throw you a funeral. You're dead to us. And that means we have a lot change, not a lot change, but a decent amount change because Lexi was pretty powerful, right? Kind of gate kept a couple decks, and certainly the return of Bullseye Bracers definitely looks a little bit better on Azalea and Riptide. What are your thoughts on what's your hot take on the World's meta?
Well, I think we got a really good. I think I was pretty fortunate for Sunday. I think is as close to the World's meta as we can get at my ProQuest. There was like 3 Lexis really, and they were all at the lower tables or just like didn't have a great day. So it was like Dromai's ninjas and assassins running around, right? Assassins trying to prey on the ninjas and any rangers roaming around, and Dromai's just out there like doing Dromai thing. So I think that's pretty close to the meta we're gonna see. In Bravo, I think that was our top 8 was Dromai, Bravo, 2 Phais, 2 Akatsu, maybe 2 Azuris and a Bravo, something like that. And I think that's going to be pretty similar. Maybe, more Dromais in the World's meta or whatever. But I think, she slots into that spot right away, and then aggro decks try to like take her down as well. And then there will be like the third thing, which is like, Bravo's going to be in there trying to take down the ninjas and Dromai, and then assassins will be kind of looming about to try to take out those ninjas and stuff, because Frailty is pretty good against Kadachis, as it were. So that, that's not really a hot take, but I think that's just like, the logical step that's going to happen.
Well, I'll hit you with a hot take, Taylor.
Okay, good.
Zero Dromais in the top 8.
Wow.
You know why?
Why is that?
Levi's back, baby. Guess what? Levi's got a lot of freaking poppers, bro. And guess what? It's not a lot of ice in the meta. Well, I guess Icelander might still be around. But, Levi can beat Icelander. I've seen it done. I've done it myself.
Hell yeah.
So
nice.
Now, here's the hot take, right? I say no Dromais in the top 8, right? But you're just like, oh, well, it must be all Levi's in the top 8. Levi will not be in the top 8 either. It's a kamikaze situation, right? They're taking them out, right?
Yeah.
And they're it's gonna just like let the other heroes play, right? We're gonna get like Katsus and Phais and Azuris or something. But I don't know why I started this virtual camera real quick, but you know what? We're really doing it.
We're doing it. Getting too hot over there.
Getting too hot and heavy. It's not realistic, but hot takes rarely are.
That's totally true. We could see a resurgence of Viserai.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like it could happen. You could just be like, you know what? I'm dusting off the old Nebula blade. I'm switching all my shrills to meet and greets. I'm going 1 for 4 with Go Again into Nebula Blade, 2 hit effects, rune chants flying all over the place.
Yeah.
Your dragons be damned, that sort of thing. That could also happen.
I think, that's not unreasonable, Taylor, because those dragons are just prime for on hits, right? And
yeah, totally.
Rune Blades love that. Right, especially Viserai. Not
especially
even like, Vincent, I guess. No, not really a lot of on hits on.
Doesn't even
Vincent.
care.
Vincent doesn't care. Viserai,
murder you.
Big old caring. It's basically a Care Bear, and
heart right on his tummy.
Yes. Now, what's your hot take on which hero has the most limited wins at Worlds?
Probably Tech Levasan. It's like, well, okay, hold on. I want to talk CC. I also think Kano has a real great spot. Like Dromai's running, nearly 60 red cards. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And that's like Kano's wet dream. And the ninjas are a little tougher, for sure. But they also don't pack a ton of AB either,
Mm-hmm.
And so you can get there against them as well. You have a few turns before they absolutely kill you. You know what I mean? So Kano could be like really well positioned as well. But for draft, I think it's going to be Tekla because it's kind of on everybody else to get over the top and beat him from fatiguing you out. You know what I mean? And if you can't do that, then you're screwed, you know? So that's who I think is going to win the most, is because it just has like the safest game plan and the easiest to draft just out of the box. You know what I mean? Although the Tekla mirror is god awful. I do not enjoy that. Who can get their Evos out first, and then, comes down to quality of attacks in your deck. And I mean, I had a Tekla mirror in my second. I had more than one over the weekend, just grinding games and stuff. But I had one where it came down to literally we were both at 1 health with 1 card in hand. And I won because I had 2 of my 3 Evos left blocked and his did not. So I could block with an Evo, attack, and then he would have to block with his Evo, and then he would attack, and then I could block with my Evo, and then he had to block with a card from hand, and then it was over, So,
the Tekla mirror, I mean, is a lot like some basketball games, right? Where like those last 2 minutes are like, whoa, this is the craziest thing I've ever watched. It's really high level play. But, throughout the rest of the game, it's just blocking and trying to get your Evos out. Can't wait to watch all that on stream. Hopefully more Dash and Max matchups. Do you have any other hot takes for Worlds in general? Right? We're going to get a Living Legends tournament. I think it's Battleharden, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Actually, here's a hot take for you. React to it for me.
Okay. Oh my God! Oh, sorry, I mistimed that. Sorry,
a little premature there.
Yeah, sorry.
Living Legends should only be heroes that hit Living Legend.
Ooh, love it.
That's what I thought. That's why I thought we were waiting. That's why I thought we were waiting until 4. I was like, oh, it's like the old.
And then they just let anybody. Then why not just? Yeah, exactly. Agreed. Should only be.
Yeah.
Bravo, star of the show. Briar, who else is Living Legend?
Prism.
Chain, and Prism, and then now Lexi. Those
and
should
Briar.
be your 5 heroes. Yeah, I said that already.
Oh, you said Briar. Sorry.
I did.
Really? You did?
I think so.
I don't think you did. Folks, comment if he said Briar.
Comment below. Comment below. Tell Tommy he's wrong.
Yeah. Any hot takes? Auxiliary hot takes for Worlds.
I think we're going to see Chain do really well despite Warmongers being a card and Hypothermia being also a card. I think somebody's grinding those games, figuring out those game plans and how to play around it, and is going to go for it. That's my hot take. Either that or OTK Viserai is just going to absolutely dominate.
I would love to see it. I think a lot of people would love to see that. People love OTK Viserai now. Worlds will be interesting. We can argue all night long about who's going to win, and we all know it's going to be. And that
I think
person
it's going to be my guess, a person we don't know yet.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
It's not going to be a Mikey Hammy or a Pablo Pintor or something like that. It's going to be somebody who they're like, oh yeah, in our country, this guy's the best. And you're like, well, we've never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
And then now they're here doing it.
So
that's what I'm hoping.
You heard it here first. Taylor Morrow says a player from the Falkland Islands off the coast of Chile is going to win
Let's go.
Flesh and Blood Worlds. I would love to see it. I don't think they. I mean,
Yeah.
I know Chile has a community down there. I don't know
awesome.
about the Falkland Islands. Not a lot going on down there. They're just kind of saying, "Hey, we're close to Antarctica." But heavy hitters.
Heavy hitters.
Taylor Morrow. This is a set built for guys like me, heavier dudes who like to really bulk up and just smash things.
Guys who are
just
packing.
Really
Got a big swanger.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Heavy hitters is confirmed now. Brute, Warrior, and Guardian with hybrid cards. What's your thoughts on this? Did you like the hybrid aspect of Outsiders? Are you excited to see it with some other heroes or classes? I should say.
Yeah, totally. I did like that. I thought that was cool. I thought that would have been cooler if there was a bit more of a triangle because there was no Ranger Ninja cards.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that would have been maybe cooler, but thematically hard to figure out. Maybe first time trying it, hard to figure out, that sort of thing. Am I excited for freaking more Guardian stuff? Not really.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is my take. Can we just have metas that don't have a Guardian or Illusionist in them now, please? Like, we're done with Rune Blades. We did that. Okay. Can we just not have a Guardian or an Illusionist around? Like, let's just play the game without them.
I mean, that's a hot take. If I've ever heard
that would be awesome. Also, if we're gonna print, this is my other hot take. If we're gonna print cards, you just got me going now. If we're gonna print cards that have or classes like Illusionist that have weaknesses, Phantasm, right? Clear weakness. Or, something to exploit or play around, blah, 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 then why are we just freaking printing them Band-Aid cards? We're printing them special dusts and dragons and auras that just are like, you know what? We had Phantasm, but now we don't. I'm an Illusionist / real magician right now, and you can't do anything about this. How's that feel? And you're like, that feels bad because my deck has a clear weakness and I have nothing to address that.
It's true. It's true. I get it.
Yeah.
There seems to be somewhat of a soft spot, and I don't know. Like it's weird, right? Because Illusionists, Guardians, Rune Blades, we're always seem to kind of rise to the top in a way, right?
Yeah.
Lexi. Sure, people complain about Lexi a lot, but this is the first time we saw a Ranger really dominate, right?
Really dominate.
And I think people forget that, like how not like bad Lexi was for a long time, but like how like non-existent Lexi was. Now,
oh, totally. And we were building it like ice Lexi was the way to play it too, Yeah. Or like snapshot Death Dealer, glass cannon.
Exactly. Now, so what gives me hope about heavy hitters is, well, obviously we're getting a lot of Warrior and Brute stuff. We haven't had a Warrior or Brute meta ever.
Well, some could say that Crucible was kind of a dash Brute situation there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it certainly had some, like Blood Rush.
That was 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, what, 1995?
Yeah.
Like,
totally. Most of the player base were just a dewdrop on their parents' genitals, Yeah,
absolutely. It's like I told them to stop sleeping outside. But like, so that gives me hope, right? And especially with this like hybrid stuff going on, right? The unfortunate thing is like, will like Guardians suddenly get some like really good like attack reactions for their hammers and stuff like that? And will they start?
We don't have a flail attack reaction or a claw attack reaction.
Yes.
Come on.
And
give us those things.
The question is, and we're just airing out some possible concerns. We're not saying this is going to happen, but
Yeah.
what if Guardian starts to get some bonuses for discarding a 6 or more? That's all Guardian has.
Totally. Their blues are for 8.
Yeah, that makes them the
Can't
best
miss.
brute deck of all time. So that would be my concern coming out of heavy hitters. But do you have any hot takes? Like, what are they going to do that's going to be like nobody saw it coming with heavy hitters?
Well, obviously, we're going to be able to wager. We're going to be able to bet, right? And when these cards came out, me and the boys were in the car, driving, and we were just trying to think of scenarios in which we could like wager, like, all right, I'm going to do 16 damage, and you have like a pumped up sixer from KO, and you roll the dice. You know what I mean? And then it doubles, and you're like, oh yeah, or Wimpily comes in for like no damage or whatever. So what could happen is like a lot of cards are focused on that aspect of the game, and they, because of their higher variance, aren't going to have a good enough payoff and will just be unplayable, and we'll just have whatever the world's meta is for an extra set cycle. That's my worry.
That's a solid worry. I have a hot take.
Sick.
Warriors still gonna suck, folks.
Most likely.
I'm sorry. It's so hard. I should not say that. Bolton, I think, is right on the precipice, on the cusp of being the deck. Right? They keep throwing Bolton some stuff, but Bolton plays on a different axis than Dorinthia. Dorinthia, I don't think certainly can do it. Like smaller areas, right? Like it can get there, but it's not the deck. I will say the Great Axe Dory could be the truth, though. Somewhat the truth right now, but obviously Dromai is a problem.
Interesting.
But I only think that now because, the heavy hitters sounds like it's going to give us battle axe support, right?
Right.
If I'm in like a gladiator arena, I'm looking at a bunch of weapons. I think a battle axe would be one of the first things I grab.
Yeah, totally. Or a bigger sword.
Bigger.
We don't have a big sword.
Yeah.
We have a really pointy sword, and we have 2 really shiny swords, and we have 2 short swords, but we don't have a big fucking sword.
Like a great,
like
a great sword.
Yeah. Like I got to drag this thing behind me. It's so big,
Yes.
That would be cool.
Like that needs, like, I wish there was a way to that would need you to have armor equipment to be able to attack, right?
Yeah.
Like you can only attack, and like that's all the armor equipment does. You can only attack with this giant sword.
Gorilla grip gauntlets. 3-handed sword.
Yes, the triple G. Yes, that is. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. What I would really want is a new class. I want a new class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is like, we just still got these same classes. Like we got Assassin. Awesome.
Yes.
Love Assassin. But then we like kind of have these 2 different ideas of Assassin. And we have 2 separate card pools that don't have any sort of connection here. So it's lacking a little bit. And then we haven't gotten a new class since then. And we kind of need one, I think. Like what's a new way we can play this game with another new hero? My other take is and I do want to circle back to where you are here, but I'm just riffing.
Right.
It's jazz right now, baby.
Yeah.
You had your solo, here comes my solo, then we'll somehow come back together. Is set is going to be, it's whether it's a hit or not is going to highly depend on what the expansion slot cards are, because that's like what is keeping Bright Lights afloat. Is expansion slot cards are bangers,
Yes.
and if we have more bangers, then I'm cool. But if we got some snoozers, I'm not cool. That's how I feel.
That's a great way to feel. And, you know, I've talked at length about expansion slots, how it's the future of the game. I think it's the best way to approach supporting supplemental sets, whatever. We want to draft, right? All right, well, how do we support these other classes? Expansion slots. It was like the perfect answer at the perfect time.
Totally. And they can keep iterating on draft, which is really great. Super awesome. Back to heavy hitters more specifically, they got to have a new way to play Guardian. They got to have a new way to play Brute. They got to have a new way to play Warrior. These have to be innovations. Like, I'm just going to Guardian around by blocking and sending big attacks. Like, cool. We have done that for 100 years, as we've said earlier. You know, let's do something else.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's actually one of my hot takes, is that the new iteration of how we play Brute is going to be so good that people are going to want to quit the game. No, not quit the game, but they're going to complain. They already complain about Rhinar. They complain a little bit about Leviah sometimes. More about Rhinar when they don't have cards in their hand. Yeah. That's a hot take. Intimidate maybe is hindering the whole class because they're so scared to support the class because they printed a mechanic that literally just removes your blocking ability, which is obviously, I understood, you know, in the beginning why they would do that, but that's a hot take. And Warrior is a little bit tougher. It's like, but it'll be fun if they do Guardian Brute cards that, because it's now a Brute card, doesn't block, but it's like still really good. So they kind of have to play it, and they're like, I'm playing no blocks in Guardian.
Totally. It's a 3-costed aura that doesn't block and gives you +10 on your next Brute or Guardian attack.
Easy. It's been balanced.
That's the blue.
That's the blue.
Red's for 13.
Another hot take: we're not getting a blue 6 for Brute.
I think that's not a hot take. That's just the hot take would be if you got a blue 6.
Actually, hot takes: we're getting a blue 7. You heard it here first. They're pushing it.
That'd be awesome.
Just make it cost a lot. Who cares?
Cost 12. We don't give a shit.
Yes. Now, before we get to some listener questions, I just want to ask you, Taylor, Morrow, do you have any hot takes on Flesh and Blood as a whole, the community, etc., whatever?
I think that the community, well, hot takes. I think we're I don't know why you had me on for the hot takes show. I'm not great at hot takes.
No, you're killing it.
I'm trying to. We're at the tipping point where we have so many people that social media and stuff is about to turn into toxicity, right? Because there's like a critical mass of people where now we have enough trolls and complainers that want to post all the time, and they're going to do that. And that's the era we're about to move into. Sad as it may be, but is the inevitable, like Thanos, that everything that happens in the modern era goes through.
I'm going to agree with you, and only because those are the loudest voices, right?
Yeah.
Now, I will say, my hot take is we are also, where we're getting a lot of that, we're also getting a lot of like everything's great, everything's awesome, everything's positive in the community, which, sure, that's a great way to be. But it's also okay to be critical sometimes. And I fear that instead of somewhere in the middle, we're going to get all the way. It's like an allegory for the world we live in. All the way on one side, the negative side, all the way on the other side, the positive side, that we're not going to get anything that's like reasonable. So I can understand that that fear, and certainly a hot take that it will possibly happen where it's just like bah, 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 or yeah, and not like
Yeah.
let's look at this like for what it is, and that would be, I mean, I think that's how we should
For
be.
people to be reasonable, right? Yeah.
But that's why we have podcasts, Taylor, so we can be we can be the voice of reason.
The voice of reason. I mean, yeah. Now we're gonna have fanboys, and I mean
Sure.
that in a non-gender specific way, because now we got apparel,
Yeah.
right? And there's enough community where it's just like, yes, people all the time, and then we're gonna have no people all the time, but they're both can be wearing LSS hoodies now. You know what I mean?
Amen.
That's the joke. That's the joke. That's on us. Also, anybody who's at Worlds who can get their hands on like maybe a large hoodie, send it to me.
I'll take an XL.
Yeah, or I'll fit into an XL also.
I'll squeeze into a
European
large
cut. So we need an XL for me and Mr. Fresh. Okay, send it
Yeah,
on
could be
over to
European.
Fresh headquarters.
Fresh
In
headquarters.
the Attack Action Podcast headquarters.
But
Thank you.
all these hot takes aside, Taylor, to really round it all out, I think that everything is great and everything's awesome, but also at the same time, maybe not. Who knows? No, seriously.
Great non-committal take.
I've always said it's like, with the FAB draft thing, like, sure. I mean, I might be personally on one side of it. That's just an example. Like something that people got outraged on, or people were very in support of, or whatever. My stance will always be, depending on who I talk to. I agree with whoever I'm talking to. I'm just very agreeable, folks.
Bandwagoner.
Yeah. I just
it's like Jay-Z has a famous quote, right? Somebody's like asking him about the NBA. They're like, "Who's your favorite team?" And he's just like, "Whoever's winning that year."
Yeah, I mean,
but obviously he's got to be a Nets fan now. But yeah.
Well, I stopped being a Nets fan as soon as they left Newark, man. The Devils stayed, but not the Nets. But yeah, have fun in Brooklyn. Go Knicks, or Sixers. I don't know. I don't care. Let's get to those listener questions. Man, this is one hell of an episode. It's if you've stuck around this long, that's because you're a true bud, and just like Taylor is. Listener questions. We got one from Greg, aka Darth Prentice, who was mentioned earlier. Is dead to me because he's doing content with the Attack Action people. Just kidding,
All right.
Greg.
It's only a matter of time before we fold in Tommy Fresh into the Empire.
I mean,
It's only a matter of time.
You know where to reach me. Greg asked, I would love to hear both of your thoughts on how many different decks archetypes you think exist in Bright Lights Limited. It seems like the most complex deep limited set thus far, and I have to imagine Brian and co baked in more than 3 archetypes. Now, we did talk at length about this, but I don't think we talked specific archetypes. I'm going to answer real quick, and I'm going to see if you know, but if you have any other. Was that a dog that just walked in?
That was my dog, yeah. I forgot the door wasn't closed all the way. She came in and was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I was like, "I'm podcasting." And she was like, "Okay.
I'll come back later."
Bye."
So currently I would say Teklo has full on Evo and full on fatigue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Evo deck is like, I'm trying to jam out Evos and win the game, right?
Yeah.
Because that's my best bet against the mirror, and it's a pretty good bet against a lot of the format. Where the fatigue has a great matchup against Dash and Max, where it might have some struggles in the mirror. Max is full dash or full boost nonsense. I think, I mean, you can play Teklo Leveler in Max if you get enough Evos, which I think
Totally.
is something that you can do, and I did in Sealed, and it was fun. And I think the same could happen for Dash, because we obviously got evos for each hero. It's just sometimes it's a big risk to play them.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're not all in on that. So I would say each, like as far as I could tell, there's 2 archetypes for each hero currently. I'd be interested to see what your answer is here, Taylor.
I do think that in my draft this weekend, I wound up having 2 of the instant evos, like a arm in the head. I forget what they're called, Zoom Call and Whiz Bang or something. And I think I should have ran those and the leveler against Teklovos and Fatigue. Just would have saved me up from like feeling like I needed to do certain things, and it definitely went down to the end of the game where I couldn't swing a weapon to kind of keep cards blocking or whatever, and I would have really liked to have done that. So I think there is that archetype, but I think for the most part, I think you could maybe also go defensive dash, where all of your items are dissolving shields and mini force fields, you know, and you're just going through the game like having good exchanges and that sort of thing, and you get to hold cards because your items are doing some of the heavy lifting there. But overall, I'm not really gonna. I don't think there's more than 3. I mean, really, those are just kind of tiny variations on what those heroes are already doing. And this is from my lukewarm take earlier in experience. I'm just going to say there's 3. You're just either playing Teklo or Max or Dash. I know maybe that's not the exciting answer that Mr. Prentice, well, maybe Mr. Prentice is his father, Darth Prentice, was looking for. But that's my take.
Well, Greg, I'm cooler than Taylor. Come back to me. No, I'm always in my heart. Capolo asks, will barraging Blake become a recurring appearance in the Attack Action Podcast YouTube videos? And you already hinted at a new video coming back with a Prism deck tech. Will it continue?
That just for me?
Yeah, it's just how
you go first.
I have no clue. What about you, Taylor?
Gosh, I also don't know. This is a tough question for sure. I wasn't prepared for this, even though I knew it was coming. Get back to me. I'll think of this in a second, and then we'll know.
Well, sounds good. We'll move on to the next question. I mean, you don't have to have an answer. You could just say, I don't know. We have to talk to Blake. Mike Popovich, big fan of his cocktails.
Big fan. Big Mike.
Talk about East Coast versus West Coast FAB. What do you think are the differences and similarities between the 2 communities?
Well, everybody loves Flesh and Blood, so that's one.
Huge similarity.
Does it always have to be at West Coast versus East Coast?
I like the East Coast versus West Coast debate because it completely ignores the Midwest. And that's
that's great.
Go ahead.
Okay. My poor joke about Blake is not on, I think, where it's going. Yeah, Blake's going to be on the channel often now. Okay.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't listen to this podcast, so whatever.
Why not?
That'll be the real win.
Maybe he should. If he's going to be on the Attack Action Podcast, this is an affiliate channel.
Yeah, I posted something in our Discord about an Arakni deck tech we're going to do or something something for the pod, and he asked a really good question, but he prefaced it with, but I'll take my answer here, because he's not going to listen. Which is pretty funny. East Coast versus West Coast. Well, I think one of the big differences is that we have two kind of large communities on the West Coast. We have the Bay Area and kind of SoCal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And those are the two strongholds of high level players. We also then, if we continue to go north, we have Portland and we have Seattle, but those are like slightly smaller because their populations are just slightly smaller. So we have this large geographical area where there's not a ton of mixing of communities except for like larger events. Whereas from what I know from the East Coast is I don't know what's going on in the Carolinas. It seems like New England has all of the flesh and blood players, and you all can just go over to Pennsylvania, go down to Jersey, go over to Massachusetts, hang out in New York. You all are maybe one community that gets to hang out a little bit more. So that sounds nice. So that's my take. Those are my differences. But the same thing is still true. Great world-class players in both, great communities in both. West Coast has the better podcasters, but it's marginal advantage.
Well, I mean, I'm holding it down over here, right? It's
You're keeping it real.
It's me against the world. No, I'm kidding.
It is.
Yeah, East Coast. I don't know. I think we have a great community. I think Pennsylvania's got a great community, and I think that is, and certainly New England as well. But I hear great things about Florida. Florida's got some great stuff going on, and down south. So, but I will say, sometimes I get jealous of everything going on over in the West Coast. I think that you guys get a lot of great like local stuff going on that sometimes I'm jealous of. A couple of my armories have not fired in the past month or so. And certainly maybe I'm going to a store that is not a flesh and blood store, and I gotta just like pull my bootstraps up or whatever and go to a different store on a different day. But sometimes those days are tough. But I think it's probably all the same. We're such a small community in general that like you go to a large tournament, you're just like, oh, this is so and so, and you don't even really think about that's a West Coast person or East Coast person. You just think this is just another flesh and blood person. But we'll get there, and the reality will be that East Coast will come out on top, as we always do. I know it's very tiring for me too, Taylor, that we always win.
Did a East Coast player be the runner-up at Worlds, or was that a West Coaster? I think that's SoCal legend Chris Iali. I believe.
I'm pretty sure
West Coast.
Michael Hamilton lives in the eastern
Indiana.
Well, it's the same. I think it might be the same.
No.
No, same time zone.
If you have fields of agriculture,
I have fields of agriculture
more than you do people. You're in the Midwest.
All right. Yeah. You got me. Yeah. And if they say "oop," apparently that's like a big thing out there. Although I think I say that too, so maybe it's just a thing. But all right, last question. We don't need to harp on East Coast versus West Coast versus where the hell Michael Hamilton lives all night. That will be for a separate episode. Orc Knight asks, our friend Orc Knight, who wins a major tournament first, Arakni or Levia, and why is it Riptide?
That's great. Shout out to Jesse. He's the best.
Sure is.
Got a great cute dog, Jax. Also, shout out to Jax. Yeah, I'm a Riptide believer. Ever since we did the Living Lurkers tier list, shout out to Zane Johnson who came up with that idea. Riptide is legit in the Living Lurkers format. So as soon as Living Lurkers is a real format, could be Riptide taking it down, or Levia, or Arakni. Who knows?
I don't think it's Arakni first. I think Riptide, once Bullseye Bracer comes back, I do think Riptide has a good shot, depending on Dromai's presence. Levia, certainly, best demi hero in the game.
Absolutely.
Easily. Sure. I mean, whatever. The other one has a lot more stuff going on, but you can just die. Like if somebody like does something to it. So
and it's way harder to demi hero in that deck. Yeah. You know?
It's a trap.
Trap.
Speaking of traps, Riptide all the way.
Riptide.
Nice. But that's going to do it for the show, folks. This has been one hell of an episode, as it always is when I bring on my dear friend Taylor. And I appreciate you coming on, buddy.
No problem.
And pay attention to the Attack Action podcast. You might hear this voice on it soon. A little collab action going on. Please plug everything you'd like to plug, and thank you, my sweet, sweet man.
Wow. Getting romantic here at the end of our hot takes. We've just been so hot and bothered this whole episode. We can't help but get lovey. I just won't say anything too loud so Lady Fresh doesn't hear. But yeah, so find us on all of your podcast platforms, the Attack Action Podcast. We're at YouTube, the Attack Action Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at BattleBro Taylor. And if you like our stuff, we're just like on this podcast, we're audience supported. So Patreon is the best way to support any of your favorite podcasters, especially Fresh and Buds, especially the Attack Action Podcast. $4 a month gets you in the exclusive elite group of Patreon supporters for the Attack Action Podcast and gets you access to our Discord and gets you a chance to go to the Hype House. So in springtime, in the April zone, beginning of April, we're hosting cool house where we're just going to hang out and have a good time and recreate your favorite moments from every big tournament outside of winning worlds. Is the hangs at the Airbnb, eating pizza, drinking beers, playing silly games, etc., just chilling. And so that's a Patreon exclusive or invite only situation. So if you want to be invited to that, hang out with me, Isaac, Colin, Blake, whoever else, Jesse and Jax, get in on that. So that's all the stuff.
Maybe some special guests, possibly. James White. I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Please check
just
out
another guy who happens to also be named James White.
Just another guy, running back from the New England Patriots. Or I don't think he's there anymore. But please check out all of Taylor's stuff. Please, it will all be in the show notes. You can continue to find me on Twitter at FreshBudsPod. Check out the Buds Discord, great place to hang out. YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. If you listen to any of our podcasts on Spotify or whatever, give us a rating and maybe a review if that's a possible thing on whatever platform you listen to. It all helps. Check out the Patreons. That's really cool. Hype House is really cool. Check out my new podcast I do with my cousin Matty Juice, Fresh Juice, an indie game podcast that we do together. It's Hummin' and Ding. We review indie video games. Whoa, the digital world. We're having a lot of fun over there. And finally, Taylor, I like to talk about food. You're always recommending some really tasty stuff. What's going on in the food world for you?
Two things. One, at work today during our professional development, they always do a good job. I have a gluten allergy, so they always do a good job of including me and stuff. And they made biscuits and gravy, and they made some gluten-free options for me. And I never get to have biscuits and gravy because that's obviously, Danger Town for me. So that was a great treat. But I was just at ProQuest this weekend, and we ate at we went to, now I'm not going to remember. It's in Santa Clara downtown. It's right by where the Channel Fireball store is. There's a bar there. That was like pretty cool. And they had just a really nice taco truck outside that was doing street tacos. I had some pollo street tacos, handmade tortillas, super friendly, nice people working there. Just a great kind of chill downtown Santa Clara vibe on like a Halloween weekend on a Sunday, and that was great. I love me some tacos. So those are kind of my most recent notable food experiences.
Well, I got great news for you, Taylor. That is the first time in Fresh and Bud's history where, to my memory, that a guest recommends a similar food, like almost exactly, from the guest from the last week. You know what that means? You get to get invited yet again at a future date. But unfortunately, that means no time for Charmer.
This is a triple for me. Sorry to ruin your Charmer bit here.
No.
Right? Is anybody else?
Quadruple.
Is it 4?
I think it's 4. This is 4th.
Oh my God. See, I've been on so many times I can't even remember.
Yeah.
Does that put me in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I think
Bud's
it's
Hall
like
of Fame?
like you and Flake maybe.
Gotta beat that guy.
Drew Cordell was getting up there and then he quit the game, but we miss you, Drew. I talked to you recently. You're doing well. Love you, buddy.
Sweet. Charmer's coming on now, right though?
No. We don't have time for that guy, but he had a really funny tweet the other day, so go check it out. And everybody have a great week.